Oh, man. So it is now 1 minute. It is now 1 minute past 3, and we are here. So you're on now, man. So there's no escape. Um, and how are you feeling today, sir?
I'm good. Like a sunny sunny day in France. Just resting, chilling before work tomorrow.
And I
So
noticed
all
you.
good.
I noticed you've arranged some particularly good background sound for us today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might hear the neighbor who just decided to do some work and drill the wall next behind me. So yeah, I apologize.
Amazing. Um, so people are now joining. They're coming in. We've got people who are filing in right now. So we're going to wait for a couple of minutes just while people file in, and then we're going to get started. But it's good to see you, man, and thank you for joining us today, obviously, which is very nice of you to give us your time. I know you're a busy man.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. It's always a pleasure. It's been a while, so it's good to reconnect with you guys and the parkour community and have a talk.
Yeah, that is cool. It's going to be a lot of fun, I'm sure. And we've had some great questions from a lot of people around the world who are very interested to find out what goes on in that strange shaven head of yours. So I think we're gonna get some.
Believe me, you don't want to know. You don't want to know.
I don't want to know, but the world wants to know. So
well, they think they want to know, and then once they know, no.
we're gonna get some pearls of wisdom. We better get some pearls of wisdom, otherwise what are you doing in the dialogue? So yeah, try and be your wise self if you can. That would be very useful.
All right, I'll try my best.
Okay, a lot of people are here, so I'm gonna get
now there's a guy actually putting some C4 in the mountain next to me. It's like it's trying to blow off the mountain. I'm not kidding. Do you hear that? My home is shaking.
And for anyone that doesn't know Stephane, this is
okay. So if I die today,
Stephane.
it was a pleasure. Maybe it's a sign, like a Parkour Legends gone live.
This is classic Stephane Vigroux. For anyone that doesn't know, managing to ruin everything somehow with his magic.
You have to be ready for everything.
Yeah, but we're going to dive straight into. Hopefully, they will shut the hell up. Some quick housekeeping for anyone who's watching, and there are a lot of you. Their chat is open, so you can send in questions, and we will see the questions, and we will come to them later. So there'll be a Q&A. We've gathered some cool questions from around the world. So those will come at the end. We will ask Steph those questions. So if you have a burning question, please do put it in the chat, and then we will hopefully come to it later. There are a lot of questions that we've had. So if we don't get to your question, we're sorry. We will try our best, but we probably won't get to them all. This is also going live on Facebook, and we will make sure that we record it so that it gets sent out. So if you have to drop out and miss 10 minutes or whatever, you will get a recorded version that you can sit back and listen to Stephane over and over and over again, if you like. So yes, welcome to the Parkour Dialogues. I'm Dan Edwards, and I'm the host for today. And luckily, we've got Stephane Vigroux. Stephane is a parkour pioneer who began his training in 1998, initially learning from one of the creators of parkour, David Belle. He was one of the original Lisses traceurs who helped formulate and shape both the physical practice of parkour as well as its central ethos and culture. He's definitely one of the most recognized early practitioners of the discipline. And he went on to become a co-founder of Parkour Generations, which gave rise to the global ADAPT qualifications for parkour coaches. He was also a co-founder of Parkour UK, the world's first national governing body for parkour. And he spent the last years, firstly in Asia and then in the Middle East, developing the parkour community there, eventually founding Parkour DXB in Dubai. Steph has taught all over the world, has performed parkour in major Hollywood productions, TV commercials, live displays, and has been featured in multiple documentaries. But always at the core of his journey has been the simple daily practice of the discipline. He's probably best known in the community for his in-depth understanding of the psychology of parkour, his fluid and kind of graceful style of movement, and his commitment to training. I've had the pleasure of knowing, working and training with Stephane for over 15 years now, which is crazy. And I'm sure everyone joins me in welcoming you, Stephane, to this Parkour Dialogue. So welcome.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks a lot for having me, and thanks to everybody who's listening. And hopefully I'll share or will share some interesting thoughts and topics that will help the community somehow. So yeah, thank you for having me.
We're gonna try. We're gonna try.
We're gonna try. Try our best. That's the only thing we can, right? Try our best always.
So first up, man, I want you to tell me and everyone else how you started parkour, like right back in the days, how you started and why.
So how? Well, I was training with a friend of mine back then. It was in 1990 and summer, July, I think, was the month, and we were at my home. We were training breakdance back in the days, and before the training, so a friend of mine brought this homemade videotape of some guys. I had no clue what to expect, and started to play it on, and just really discovered a different form of movement on that tape. And it was basically David Belle and the Yamakasi with some homemade footage that actually I don't think many people have seen those footage. Probably 10 in the world have seen them. And with clips of Speed Airman, actually. So you've all seen that one. But anyway, so it was discovering a different form of movement on that screen. And it was just very really appealing and really kind of shocked me in a way and touched me really deep inside me straight away. Just visually speaking, it was powerful. So I watched the entire video, and then just walked out the garden, get on the fence, and then throw a backflip without having a clue of how to do a backflip or what to do. I just went and hope for the best, and then in my feet, and that was it. And then we had a chance to meet David. So yeah, my friend said, look, those guys, they're legends. They train super hard. They're like ninjas and everything. And then we can train with David later on today. And in Lisses, he's training over there. You want to come? So yeah, for sure, let's go. And we went to Lisses. He was already training there, topless, sweaty, and really in shape. And this is my first encounter with David. And we trained on that day. And we trained. I tried to execute as much as I could. But it was intense as well.
And obviously this was, there were very few people in the world that knew about it, as you say, like a handful of people in the world that knew about it, right? And certainly very, very, very few practicing it at that stage. It's 98, so it's just like 7 years before YouTube, and before Jump London, and before the BBC ident with David and all that sort of stuff, before Yamakasi. Yeah. So there was hardly anyone doing it. What did it feel like then? Did you know that there was something that you guys had, or what?
No, I guess that's why the impact was powerful, because I wasn't exposed to any form of movement like that, except from Jackie Chan's movie. You see glimpses of it, but when you absorb the whole video, like I don't know, maybe 10 minutes of it, and you can tell it's a thing. It was just very, really shocking in that sense, because I haven't seen it anywhere else on YouTube, or I haven't been exposed to that amount of content of parkour from parkour. So it was quite a shock to take a 10-minute long video of those guys doing weird movement. But it was inspiring, really, because you could tell, even though I haven't seen it, I could tell it was true. It was real. It was real. It wasn't fake. It wasn't special effects. It was a real human beings moving in a different way, and I could tell it was real, but at the same time unreal. So.
And I want to like, most people, some of us know that period. They know that stuff happened, and that's how you met David, etc. And the community began to form. But like, go back a little bit. Who was the Stephane that encountered that watched those videos and all that sort of stuff? Why did you have a back? You went, as you say, you went outside straight away. You did a backflip and you landed on your feet. Now, for you, that's like I did it and I landed on my feet and I was crazy. Most people would be like, he went outside and he did a backflip and landed on his feet with no training from a wall. A lot of people nowadays are going to be like, how did you do that? He must have had some sort of training beforehand. Like, what did you do before? Why were you so attracted to the physicality? And how were you able to keep up with those guys at that stage?
Yeah, first of all, I'm trying to run away from that Stephane back in the days. I'm trying to run away from it. He had issues, let's say. Let's put it this way. He was young, impatient, immature, very angry, a lot of stuff that make you learn, basically. So I learned a lot with those traits of mine. Then, yeah, of course, I was I was training, break dances and a bit of kung fu. But as I said, it was quite casual. I would just go to a club twice a week and train. But I was passionate about it. I mean, I watched a lot of kung fu movies, and I was watching a lot of stuff. But and training wise, it was casual, really. Let's put it this way. So I had a bit of physical attributes, but not that much. Really. I guess when I'm really passionate about something, I tend to absorb quite quickly and absorb in very, very deep details, and that brings me the ability to replicate that fairly quickly. So when I saw that, and we saw the connection when I watched the first video, it was really intense. I would really absorb it, and then it just gives you a bit of a boost, a bit of a you take a little bit of that energy, and I just went on it and tried, and that was it. And actually, it was kind of a bit of a luck, because then I couldn't replicate that regularly. I had to train then to really master a backflip. It was just maybe the adrenaline from watching that stuff. But I've always been good at absorbing by just watching something, and training with David. That's how I in the beginning. That's how I progressed quickly. Of course, the amount of hours put in the work and the training, but also training with David himself and just observing his quality, his intensity in every move. And I absorbed a bit of that every time. Yeah. So that fastened the progression of my training.
So you had a strong visual model for you
Yes.
to kind of learn from every day.
Probably one of the best models you can have in parkour when you start.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously we're going to come to David and talk a little bit about that. How much that training phase for you, how long did that last? How, and you say intensive, how many hours a day were you training? What was the structure of your week like?
So after that day, I just, fell in love with parkour, and I asked permission to train. And it was like, I don't spend time training people. So basically I'm going to throw a bone at you every now and then. If you can catch up with that, that's good. I'll keep throwing some bones to you, and that's it. So that was the kind of deal we had. But I trained as soon as I agreed to do that. So I would knock his door every day and ask him for exercise and drills to do, training to do, and he would tell me, go there, do that, go there and do that. And that would be probably from 6 minimum up to 12, 16 hours a day, every day for at least 3 years nonstop. That before it started to slow down a little bit, the first 3 years were the same pace, hungry, waking up doing parkour all the way up to going to bed. And then even when I was sleeping, I was doing parkour, obviously, because it was just my daily, passion and obsession, really.
That obsession is very interesting, right? Because that's pretty rare these days. It's kind of rare. Well, it's rare at any time. It's sort of, that's like the old apprenticeships, say in martial arts and those kind of old disciplines. That was how it was done. People, they learned in an immersive fashion, right? They would find a school, a teacher, and they would basically just throw themselves into that thing. They would live that thing for a certain amount of time, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. It's pretty rare. These days, it's even more rare, I think, because people want to learn fast and learn from YouTube or whatever. But that, certainly in the late 90s, that's still pretty rare. Why do you think that what was it that switched you on to accept that and to do that? Because I'm sure a lot of people would have been like 16 hours every day for years. Sort of. So was it, do you think, is it something special about you that means you could do that, or what was it?
It's a very good question, because I'm hoping now that something triggers the same passion in me for something nowadays. I'm hoping for that. And I was about to say, I'm trying to look for it, but I don't think that's something you kind of look for it. It just happens, it's just you're at the right time with the right thing, I guess. But there's a reason for it, why I had so much passion for it, but I can't explain. That's not something I did on purpose and say, okay, I'm going to focus now on one thing and I'm going to do it 100%. I'm going to be great at it, or I'm going to be good at it. I'm going to expect results and all that stuff. I had none of that plan. I guess it was a stage of my life where I was asking questions. You grow up and school was over early for me. And obviously the question is, what after school? What do you do with your life? What is your life? What are you going to do? That was a real questions. And me being a bit of a misfit, you know, being a bit of a rebel against society and all that stuff, that brings the question right into your face. And I had to answer them quickly with also having a family context, quite traditional, with my dad being very strict and traditional, and things are in order. And so I had those questions very early on. And then I guess those questions in my mind, in the back of my head, and meeting parkour at the same time did that connection. And then I just got absorbed by it. And the drive was really the questions. I had no idea. I understand that today. Yeah, the questions in the background about my life, what do I do, who I am, and how do I get better? How do I get happy? Those are the real true question I've always had in my head. And the connection with parkour, the trigger with parkour, and I just got absorbed by it without thinking about it, and realize, you know, 5-10 years later, okay, that's why I did this, and that's why yeah, I got some answers through that practice and through that immersion. So again, I'm hoping, I will see, you know, time will tell, but I miss the fact to be absorbed by something without premeditating it, or without telling yourself, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to do this. No one told me to do any of that. And I trained, you know, hours and hours, and really hard, pushing myself hard, testing my limits. And there was no one telling me besides me. And even me didn't know or didn't understand why, really. I just wasn't doing it simply. And that's something very valuable, and that's sort of kind of a luxury, you know, if I think about it now.
I mean, it's an important thing, right? So that's, you know, that you had a kind of intrinsic motivation for doing it. There was nothing outside that was you weren't thinking, I need to go and do this because I need to build my body up to look better, or I need to do this so that I can create a good video, or I need to do this so I can, you know, earn some money or impress someone or whatever. You were just doing it because purely for the love of doing it. And that intrinsic motivation, yeah, I mean, it draws you into it every day. You get up, you go straight away into it, and you've got endless energy for those sort of things. You never
exactly
get tired of doing it. Yeah,
I miss the endless energy, and it's amazing, man. It's really amazing. It's really priceless. And I know that when I'm touched by something, if I have this heart, you know, and I have this energy. But unfortunately, personally speaking, you know, I don't find many things in life that give me that drive and energy.
I think it's probably the same. I think everyone probably only finds one or two things like that in their life, which is their kind of, you know, their calling in a way, their vocation in that sense. But when you find it, it is going to light you up, and it's very hard to burn out doing that sort of thing. Like a lot of people talk about burnout, hard and balance yourself. But when you're doing something like that you really love to do, you find that you can do it for years on end, as you did, hours a day, years on end, burnout, because there's no conflict in your mind about it. There's no part of you that wants a break. You're just 100%. It is your life. So
I agree.
There's no need for like a work-life balance. So
if it
there
has
is a
been
need
forced,
for work-life balance and other things.
Yeah, if it was forced or you know, in conflict with some of my thoughts or will, I would have ended up the journey, you know, much quicker, for sure. As you said, the mind was the drive, and the mind, as we know, you know, is the man, and if the man wants, the body follows to some extent, of course. That's why I guess I was able to absorb as much training, just because I so wanted it.
And can you remember a day or a specific moment where you knew that parkour is for me, not only as a practice, but I'm going to do this as a profession. This is what I do now, and I'm not going to focus on other things.
It wasn't even a profession. It was just this moment I had it, and it was the first time I watched it. That day I just described, you know, when I saw the videotape, I watched it, and it was really strong. And then we went to see David. Seeing David in person was really strong, really interesting experience. And to see him moving, and you know, you feel that energy live. It's different from video. You've never seen someone moving like this. You see in front of you a guy who was in shape. You can tell he's in shape, he's strong, and he's capable. He's really capable with his body. And straight away I tried. On the first day I broke a jump, faced my fear, and it was amazing. It was amazing, mesmerizing. And then, the first day, this day I knew that was for me. I didn't know it would be a career. It would be, I just knew I want to do this. I'm doing it now. For how long or whatever, I don't know. But that's it.
Really living in the moment kind of thing. Like, this is what I'm doing and that's it. No thought for the future, no sort of planning or anything like that. Just, I'm going to do this. And it led you to X, 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 Y, Z, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, which wasn't, making my dad happy, because it's more about planning things and have a plan. And I was like, for me's point of view, I was a monkey, playing in the trees and stuff. It didn't make sense for him back then, of course. But no plan, just leaving the moment and this kind of a call, 100%. Yeah.
And obviously, talking about David, as you say there, you were inspired by his energy and his presence. And I'm a big believer in the importance of mentors in life. And, you will have a few people in your life who hugely affect you and hugely impact you. If you're on the lookout for them, and mentor idea in life is very, very important. So, talk about David, class. For you, and what have they brought you? How important were they for your life?
I missed some of your question. Do you hear me well the whole time? Because you're breaking down a little bit. Okay. If you guys hear me, that's fine.
Yeah, we can hear the important one.
All right.
Cool. Talk about mentors.
Yeah. So, you asked about David and
so any other mentors in your life? How important have mentors been to you? And what have they brought to your life, including David?
I'm a big believer in mentors and learning. I'm a student of life, simple, plain simple. And I love to learn every day, and I love to improve myself every day. So, and I do that through everything and everyone I meet. Everything and anybody, every situation, basically my whole life, from the day I wake up in the morning, from the time I go to bed, I'm just trying to get better in everything I do. And if you try to do this, and obviously you'll try to learn. And I guess I have an open mind. I'm not afraid to be told off or look like an idiot. I'm happy to start the last. Hey, look, I'm shit. I don't know. So bring it on. I don't mind. I can learn. So David obviously impacted my life a lot. It was revolutionary, and it was very much in line again with the questions I had. And he was on the same quest. I think we all are on the same quest. Every human being, besides whether or not they're doing parkour, I think we all have questions. So it was really inspiring. But I tend to learn from everything and every situation at every time. Like, I learned a lot from you, working with you, meeting you. All those years spent together. I'm a big observer of the world around me.
Okay, so you've had many mentors, not only David, is what you're kind of saying. You pick and choose from here and there, but obviously back then, he had a specific influence. Obviously,
for sure, of course.
Character, and bringing it. If we sort of go into a little bit into the early philosophy, what I think is an interesting question is, when you joined, which is very early on, really in the sort of evolution of the discipline in a way. What was the sort of ethos and philosophy of parkour like then? How formulated was it, and how much did it formulate over the next kind of 3 to 5 years with your intense training at the period? What was it like then?
Yeah, no. At the beginning, the practice was basic physically, but also mentally, and even from a spiritual standpoint. It was the philosophy was very young, and it wasn't articulated properly. There was no clear principles and ethos. It was put in a bag and you mix it up, and it would come up every now and then, but it wasn't clearly articulated, I would say. But what you could tell very early on is that this practice and this discipline matters a lot for the people who were practicing it. So we all took it very seriously. And so there's a lot of discipline, a lot of commitment Um, uh, we cared about the discipline. We cared about, I guess, our lives through practicing parkour. So it was serious in a way. It was very serious, actually. The fun came later for me, anyway, from my experience. Maybe the Yamak had had more fun, but no, I guess not. But it was quite serious. It was serious. Everything was serious. Making a jump was serious. Missing a jump was serious. Training on time was serious. Being on time was serious. Being proper in what you do. Do what you say. Keep your words. Do things clean. No lies. And all those principles were very early on, and everything was serious.
Give us. I want you to give us an example of like how serious. Like, and maybe a good one that comes to my mind is the story that you told me a long time ago about like David waking you up in the middle of the night to make you do a really, really tricky jump.
Yeah, to test me, if I'm ready. He liked this idea of being ready at any time. So yeah, he would wake me up at night. Or one of the serious thing also was, for example, you're struggling with a jump. You want to do the jump, but it's difficult. You can't make it after one attempt, two attempts, and one of us, or you could say it yourself, one of us is going to say, "I'm not leaving until I make it." And this is a very dangerous sentence to say if you stick by it, because you could be there for a long time or overnight, basically. It happened a few times. And it becomes very serious. It's not really smart, but
so that you and the group stayed at a jump the entire night until morning trying to do it.
Yeah, and it also teaches you to give up sometimes. Sometimes, no matter how much you want, then the obstacle in front of you tells you you're not ready, and come back later. So that was the intensity and the seriousness. Like you don't have to stay. You can go home. My dad would be actually happy for me to go home, but why would you stay? That's a weird thing if I look at it. Why would you stay? Why would you inflict yourself so much pain, so much challenge?
And there was an element of challenge right between you guys at the start. In that I remember the croissant story that became a huge running joke between all of us when you told me that. I remember it became a huge thing to go and get a croissant or a hot chocolate or whatever. Became a big thing at the beginning of PKJ, and I remember that. And that was basically the idea of, hey, tempting you, or David tempting you to give up, saying you can go away and get a croissant or a hot chocolate anytime you want, man. I'm not forcing you to be here. So that's a form of challenge. Yeah,
and that's also part of the mentality. You had to be strong, so you cannot give up. You cannot tell when you're hurt, when it's difficult. You don't tell, you don't show. You just do. So yeah, the croissant thing. Yeah.
I remember it well.
It was part of the competitiveness spirit as well, and just being strong. You have to be strong, so you just shut up and do your job.
And how is that? How did that change for you? When did that begin to change? That, because I know that you're I've known you for a long time, since whenever I first met you in 2004 or something like that. And your evolution in terms of your training philosophy has obviously changed over the years. So how and when did that start to change? That because that's a very strong, challenging, very aggressive philosophy to training in a way. But you don't have that philosophy now. So how did that change? Why did it change? What did it change into?
Well, I guess the reason, coming back to the reasons of my training and why I got into parkour in the first place, was really essentially was, how do I live a happy life? And parkour offered me tools and challenges that brought me out of my comfort zone. So I have to do better, be better, and that's a habit that you train every day, physically or mentally. As we know, parkour offers both. So those questions with parkour, the connection of parkour, put me into situations where I had to grow. And when you grow, you become a better version of yourself. And then you get rid of some of the questions, and and with me, which was basically essentially pursuing happiness and just having a more stable life, because I knew I was fucked up in many ways. So as you train and as you answer those questions, then you obviously, a lot of my negative traits went away with those questions, such as anger. I became less angry because also I became more confident. Confidence played a big part actually in many ways about what do you do, and I was a misfit and all that stuff. So a lot of those questions got answered, slowly through training and through time and through proving myself that I'm capable in many ways, testing myself in really tough situations over time, over and over again. Just builds a lot of character, and then that character then again applies to life, and you just live a more stable life, a more happy life. And then I didn't need to face the same challenges again. I just didn't need to struggle as much in some situation, or to test the same thing again, because it was done. I had my answer, and I'm happy with the answer I have, and that helps me to carry on being a better version of myself. So I guess naturally over time, that's what happened.
So it's kind of a pure adapt. It's sort of like parkour itself it's like the physical practice of parkour in a way, in that you had an adaptive mindset that changed and grew as you grew. So it responded to you. You didn't try to stick to this is the dogmatic truth that I have to stick to all the time. You have to let it evolve, and let your training evolve and your approach evolve as you evolved.
Yeah, for sure. And with an open mind, because again, the real motivation of all that was how do I live a better life? How am I get myself happier every day? That's the only thing that matters. Even before I met parkour, since I'm a really young kid, I've always been the kid who look outside in the classroom. I don't belong here. I look outside, and my questions, when I remember looking at my teachers, was always, you're not happy, I can tell. And yet you're trying to make me believe your stuff or learn your stuff. And I knew from very, very young that it would not help me to be happy. And that was the most important thing from very young. Parkour somehow, without no one telling me that's good for you, I knew it would be good for me. Just because I said, it just brings the best out of you, because it puts you into challenging situation, out of your comfort zone. It really challenges you in many ways. You're lazy, good luck with parkour. You're afraid, good luck with parkour. But that's the same in life, right? If you're afraid, if you're lazy, nothing good will come to you. So it was a perfect tool for me to channel that energy and anger and into something positive and improve myself.
So you had it was an outlet for you for that drive, that energy. But you already had that, is what you're saying. You already had this kind of desire and drive to understand yourself and what would make you happy in a very sincere way. You weren't happy to just go and being told or taught by society and your teachers, etc. You wanted to find it out for yourself.
I knew it wasn't for me, and it wouldn't bring me happiness. It wouldn't bring the answers of life. How do you deal with your friends? How do you deal with your wife? How do you deal with your family? How, basically for me, schools was just a box that put you in another box. So you learn some stuff that then are supposed to help you to get a job, and with that job you're supposed to be happy. And it works for a lot of people, and it's totally fine. But for me, I didn't see. I saw it as a trick, avoiding the real questions of who you are and how do you live a better life, simply, without going into esoteric, speeches or religion stuff. Just simply, how do you get a good day? How do you live a good day? Simply. And I guess I found a lot of answers through parkour, because I built myself through challenges and adversity. And we know nowadays that a lot of different people, or successful people, or happy people, simply have faced and overcome challenges and grew from adversity, and then that's how they just became better or more successful in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that, man. When you teach parkour now, when you introduce someone to parkour now, do you introduce those concepts early on, or do you sort of, if they're young, do you say, okay, I want you to go through the period of testing first before you get to this stuff? Or do you introduce these concepts straight away?
The concepts of
these concepts of the sort of the more advanced ideas of like answering the questions of, are you happy? Why do you want to be there? Why do you want to do this? You know, what's really using coaching to go into themselves as a person and get to know more about their life. Or do you teach that stuff straight away now? Or do you, with the young practitioners that you teach, are you more sort of like, I went through the period of forging the steel in the fire, and that is an important process. So I'm going to make sure you go through it too. How do you teach now?
Parkour for me is something that has to be very personal. And so parkour is so rich that, I wouldn't assume I know you enough straight from day one to tell you that that's what you need. So I would teach parkour. I teach parkour. I teach principles and situations. So I know that these situations will work on your confidence. This situation will work on your fear. This confidence will improve your focus, and so on and so on. So I have identified all the mental concepts of parkour, the physical concepts of parkour, and I teach concepts. And at the beginning, I teach them all, except if you're very, very young, and I would avoid putting you on a rooftop and scare you to death, for example, obviously. But I would expose the principle of fear to a gentle level. So I think I would teach pretty much everything from day one to you, in principle, and then I would get you to know. I would get you to know you more. Sorry. So then I can refine that teaching and maybe be more specific with your needs and expectations. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, I think you did, and it's leading me into another area really, which we've had a lot of questions about actually that have been sent in on this one topic. So it's probably worth going into it now. Is the fear thing? You mentioned fear there, and you introduced it early on, and obviously it's a topic I know both of us could probably talk about for like 3 years, 16 hours a day, same as you and David back in the day. But what people are really interested in parkour is that parkour does introduce you to fear pretty much straight away. Like it's very hard to get into parkour and not in some way feel fear early on. What do you do with people that you introduce parkour to get them used to fear? How do you deal with fear? How do you develop that mentality and the confidence to break those jumps? How do you do it? Tell us about the Stephane Vigroux understanding of fear.
Understanding of fear. Whoa, it's a big one. That's one thing I say a lot, actually. Just it's a gradual exposure and regular exposure. That's what I would recommend for fear. So I think that's the best way to then be more comfortable at dealing with fear. So it has to be gradually and it has to be regularly. I think that's the main, I guess, advice I could give. So it doesn't matter how good you are or how advanced you are in parkour. If you're straight from beginner, I will expose you to fear. And as you said, it's very easy. Actually, the more beginner you are, the easier for me it is to expose you to fear in a safe manner. Mm-hmm. And then you face your fear and then discover yourself and how you handle it and how you find solutions and how you find answers.
So there's no magic trick that you can tell people like this will help you with your fear. It's a process.
No, I guess maybe it's good to be aware of it. So telling them, you're about to be exposed to fear. I think it's probably a polite thing to do. Unless you know who you're dealing with and you know that not telling them is good for them because you really want to make a point and hit them hard and have a kind of a breakthrough moment. You could play that card, but most of the time I would introduce the fear concept and just be honest about it. You're gonna be afraid. That's fine, and we're gonna look at how you handle it and finding tools for you to deal with it and overcome it. I think that's the idea. And again, for me, the idea is always to translate that into other areas. At least the mechanic of overcoming fear, what's happening inside, and the confidence, just being more comfortable at dealing with fear. I guess I believe if you do this regularly, then you'll be able to handle the fear in different aspects of your life better. It won't solve everything, but the fact that fear comes in, I feel if you walk with this emotion regularly, then it's more likely that you'll be able to handle it in a better way.
There's some carryover into other aspects of your life, other fears.
Yeah, that the emotion remains the same. Fear is fear, whether it's for a jump or to approach a girl, for example, as we know.
So how central is fear to parkour for you, do you think? Could someone learn parkour and never deal with the fear aspect kind of thing?
Well, it depends how you define parkour and how you see parkour. I would say you're missing a big part of it if you're not facing your fear, and you're simply practicing a physical aspect of parkour, which is good. It's good for your body. There's no harm in that, but you're missing a big part. But I'm not forcing you to explore that part, because maybe it's not for you. Or maybe parkour is not the right tool. I believe everybody should face fear. That's my belief. But maybe parkour is not the right tool for you. Maybe it's going to traumatize you and harm you more than it does good. So, but I'm going to say, I'm going to tell him, you're missing a big part, but training the physicality of it is good. But maybe you should try something else that helps you facing your fear, because that's useful for your life. But that's just my advice.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to put you on the spot philosophically now, and I'll ask you, what are the 3 most important pillars of your parkour philosophy, or the philosophy of parkour? What do you think? Like, if you had to narrow it down to 3 pillars, what are they?
Oh, now I regret not having your questions beforehand.
Yeah.
When you asked me, I had the chance.
Yes, toi.
The 3 pillars of the philosophy.
What are the most important aspects of the parkour philosophy? What are the central aspects?
Again, I would speak on my name, because parkour, now it's so big, and it's everyone has his own right. So for me, I would say you have to want to grow. You have to want to grow, be a better version of yourself. I think that's key. That's key. If not, oh man, parkour is going to be so tough for you. If you don't want to grow, if you don't like challenge, or you don't understand what's behind the benefit of a challenge and overcoming, and all the mechanism behind it, if you don't understand that, you reject that, parkour is going to offer you challenges every day. So it's going to be painful for you to do parkour. Choose something else. So you want to have this desire to grow and evolve and be a better person. That's for me key. If you don't have this, it's going to be difficult. What else? I don't know. It's just random thought. I might look at this, later on and say, shit, what did I say? But everything that's related to learning and being humble in a learning way. So you're willing to learn, and stay humble. So by humble, I also mean so open mind, and also less ego. Ego is tricky in every aspect of our lives, not only in parkour, but in parkour it's easy to get trapped into the performance side and the spectacular aspect of parkour, and impressing people, and it kind of feeds your ego, and that's a danger, because that could prevent you to grow, actually, and that would do the other thing, and you wouldn't realize it until something bad happened to you. So you could get lost with ego. So being true, being honest, being humble, willing to learn, honest with yourself, that's maybe more than 3 pillars, but
no, that's good. That's really
I would recap it with being, humility and willing to learn. Yeah,
I think that's summarizes a huge amount of it, man. The growth mindset. More and more as I went on through the practice, I realized that so much of it is about the growth mindset. Not only practicing parkour, but coaching and teaching. It is all just are you willing to grow? And the growth mindset is not even really having, being good at learning. It's solely based on that concept of, are you willing to change? Are you happy to accept the fact that you may not know everything now, and to be humble enough to accept that there may be better ways of doing things, and that if you find a better way of doing things, or a better perspective, or a better way of seeing something, it makes sense to adopt it, and test it, and if it works, keep it. And that growth mindset, I mean, that's what Bruce Lee taught. Obviously, absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, and add what is your own. You know, this is all the perennial wisdoms pretty much teach this. So I think that is probably a really good way of summarizing the core philosophy of parkour is growth, the willingness to grow, and being humble enough to accept new learning and teachings, and the willingness to face challenge. I think it's really important that you got that in there. Understanding that it's going to suck regularly. Any growth is going to suck. There's a great quotation that which I've always loved, which is, your pain is just the breaking of the shell of your understanding. So pain is inevitable, because as your understanding, as the shell around you shatters and you get a new layer of understanding, that's pain. That process is painful. So,
and that's why I mentioned ego, because that's the ego who owns those you know, thoughts and ideas that we cherish so much, you know.
And do you think, I mean, this is great, you know, but do you think, as you said in there, you said, you know, now maybe some people, you know, they're doing parkour, they learn it for YouTube videos or to hang from cranes or whatever. Do you think it's harder to access this gem, this core bit of parkour philosophy? Do you think it's harder for people to find that now because it's hidden amongst all the razzmatazz and the show and the spectacle and the money and all this stuff?
Maybe it is more difficult to some, you know, to some degrees, to some extent, but I also believe that it's there. And if you're wired to find, I would say truth, but truth, no, that's just my opinion. But if you're willing to dig deep and face the real question, then you'll find them. First of all, there are people like you guys, or the, you know, parkour clubs or community in the world who are doing a great job. There are many of them. First of all, it's not the majority of what you can see on YouTube, yes, but they are there, first of all. And two, I believe that even on your own, if you're truly committed to the task of growing, you'll find something that will, you know, that will help you on your own, even maybe, you know, or if you have this mindset, the mindset again leads you to practicing parkour or something else. So I think that's the root of it. So yeah, it might be more difficult. It's true, because there's a lot of layers now, and it's quite superficial on the top. But the top is there, but the depth is there too, and the depths come from you actually, and the questions you have within you, and you want to answer with, again, humility, being honest with yourself. And if you're really clear with that, then you'll find what you need, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. That's a powerful message, I think, for anyone to take away. And I agree. I think the fact that it may be obscured somewhat by how parkour is shown to the majority of the world now. I think it is still there. As you say, there are so many communities that teach it really well still around the world. And I, for one, think it's so important that they do that. For me, that's really all I'm interested in, is all I've ever been interested in parkour, making sure that people can access that kind of knowledge, that particular gem of understanding, which I think is really can only be experienced. I don't think you can sort of tell people about it in lectures and stuff. You know, they can understand it cerebrally maybe, but the only way people understand that knowledge is by going through an embodied experience of challenge and suffering and fear and difficulty and progress and breaking the shell. And that, I think, is very important, that there are people around the world who still offer that. And there definitely are, some really good communities and teaching groups around the world that are still doing that. And I think it's so important that they continue to exist even as parkour evolves.
Yeah, that's part of our job, I guess, to make it available. That's what I say, you know, to all my students. And I'm here to make this knowledge available to you. I'm not here to convince you it's any good for you. You'll decide that for yourself. From my experience and from what I learned, here's the best of what helped me, and now it's all yours. And I wish this to continue to happen, to be available for people, and then they make their own choice, and hopefully something even better will come up, you know, and so on and so on.
What was the hardest challenge for you in your parkour journey? What's been the hardest aspect?
Yeah, it's still happening. So what I mean is like it's an ongoing process. So it's like when does it end? Never. Maybe the day I'm 6 feet under. That's probably where I have some other questions in mind, or anyways. But I don't feel like so it's still happening. So I don't. Yeah, it's an ongoing process. So there's no peak moment highlight. It's still happening, and it's a journey, and it has the same kind of vibe with ups and downs, of course, but it's the same. I'm on the same track since day one.
Mm. And what do you think's kept you on, to put it this way? So in navigation terms, right, originally when people charted the seas, they used the North Star as their guiding light, right? That's where the reference of all the other stars, right? Because the North Star is constant. So that true north. So what is it what's been your true north? What's your North Star throughout these 23 years or whatever it's been?
Be the best of myself again. They always come back to that. How
so it's a concept. Like some people's North Star might be a person, it might be a religion, it might be a philosophy, it might be a place.
May it's growing. Yeah, it's growing. It's being better. As I said, every day, with or without parkour in my day, it's how do I do better? And it's small details. That's something also parkour taught me. Paying attention to details, being deliberate, when you do something, being aware 100%. Everything, man, everything. A simple hello, a simple. I maybe I question myself too much, but I'm always questioning if I was good doing that, and doing that could just help someone, or not helping someone, or saying hello, or having a discussion with a random neighbor. Did I really care when I said that? Did I answer his question correctly? Did I listen to him? It wasn't looking good. This person was I there for him or for her during that 2 minutes of time we crossed paths. It's a constant reflection. So maybe I'm too much, but growth is the constant thing for me.
Cool. Okay, man, we're going to dive into some questions from the audience. A lot of these questions, they overlap with questions that our audience are very smart, or smarter than I am. They should probably be the ones who are interviewed. So we're going to go into some of their questions. And we're going to start with some of the questions that are more directed to you as a person. So one question we've had a few about is injuries. So you've had injuries in your career. I know that you've had some injuries in your career. I've been present when a couple of them have occurred, s'mores or whatever. But and you've had a couple of sort of major careers, major injuries that could normally, that would perhaps a lot of people would cause them to end their career in parkour, maybe. So, how do you deal with injury? How do you feel going forwards?
Yes, I had a couple of injuries. It's difficult, man. It's tough, I mean, it's easier now than I'm older, and
what were your injuries? What were just the people know?
So I had 2 cruciate ligaments injuries, ACL torn, both of them, and I had reconstruction surgeries afterwards, which was useless, by the way, because now I have no ligaments. Apparently, they've checked, and my knee is stable because I just trained it. So
your knee remains stable because of the muscular strength around it.
Yeah, the strength, and the parkour is good, movement wise it's very healthy. So if you know what to do, then you could be able most of the time to avoid surgery. That would be my advice today. If you have an ACL surgery, you might need a surgery, but maybe not, and most likely not. So be careful before paying the swimming pool for some rich surgeon.
And how did that I want you to tell the listeners here, how did that first injury happen? The first time you did that injury, because I remember it's quite a memorable occasion.
Well, it was my 2 injuries happened during TV commercials, so shooting, filming videos on set. So the first one, I was young. It was a big jump, a running jump over a bridge, and you landed on the other side on the platform in the staircase. So it was big drop, big running jump. The shooting days are tiring, and they're not like training where you can pace yourself and push yourself when you want. You're quite in sync with your mind and your state and everything. When you're walking on set, everything's different. There's a lot of people watching you, they're observing you, they're commending you, they're telling you when to jump, when to rest, and that affects your performance, obviously. And I was young, it was difficult for me to handle with that pressure. I was tired. It was the end of the day or something. It was towards the end of the day, and we did the jump once on the day. Once I did the jump 2 times the day before, just for me, for rehearsal. On the day once, and they wanted to do it another time, and I felt the pain. I felt tired. I didn't feel the jump. Simply, sometimes you feel it, sometimes you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't feel it. And then I told David, look, I'm not going to do that jump. I don't feel it. And he was like, yeah, okay, no problem. But every time when you want to give up with David, he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Le croissant. So I was like, of course, okay, yeah, no problem. So I decided to go anyway, even though I told them I wouldn't do it. So the queue started, and the guy started to run and jump, and I just, for some reason, decided to follow and do the jump. And as I landed, I was weak. And I did a bad roll, and my joints went out of alignment and tore my ligaments. And the thing is, at the time, I didn't know what was an injury because I wasn't educated at all in terms of body and injuries simply. So I had to finish the day, and I had to finish the TVC. So we had one more day left, one and a half day left, and I finished the whole thing with my swollen knee and limping because it was just the way it was. You're tough, you just man up and jump. So I was still doing the drops. I was limping when I run. So yeah, that wasn't healthy. But so, but the thing is, after the injury, I think what's really important is it was difficult because, again, and it happens, when you're young and when you start parkour, there's a bit of that physical, power that you own. And you're kind of happy to, don't lie to me. You're happy to. You're strong when you do parkour. You feel, especially at the beginning. And then when you're hurt, then you can't move. And then if your strength and happiness or energy came from the ability to perform and to jump and to move well, when this is gone, it's a big hit because there's a big. Most of it is gone because you're in a hospital bed and your friends are training outside. Some of them don't come to visit you. And it's tough. It was really tough for me in that sense to be one of the top in the team, to suddenly be alone in a bed in a hospital without the ability to move. So I felt like my worst was because of the way I moved, or I was capable to move, and I was worst nothing. My worst was 0 once I couldn't move. And that was wrong. This was wrong.
So. That's something you learned in terms of like to get through injury in the future, make sure that not all of your personal self-worth and happiness comes purely from the ability to do that thing.
Yeah. And and again, I think you can't do that if you get to be detached from the physicality of it and the ego again aspect. Because essentially it's just unless, in my case, it was just a ligament. You come back from a ligament injury most of the time. You do. If you really want to, you do. So there was nothing to be worried about. It was just the external image and the attraction I had back then, was Stephane's always with David. He's good now. He moves well. He's on fire. He breaks all the jump. And now Stephane is out. So it was a bit of a hit, yeah, for sure.
Interesting. Cool. Well, hopefully that's given some people an insight into the fear questions. We had quite a few of them. Let me go to another one. This one from Olga, who says, which opinion is closest? Which opinion do you think is right? Is parkour a way to overpower yourself and exceed the opportunities of your body, training at the limit or even above the limit? Or is parkour the development of the physical capabilities of the body just for pleasure without undue stress? Is it I think what she's asking really is, does it require, for it to be parkour, does it require that it's pushing you to the limit, or can it just be something that's pleasurable with no stress?
Oh, okay, just for me, yeah.
Which one is closer for you?
Yeah, now for me, number one, yeah, it has to come with pressure, because pressure, again, is gonna bring you out of your comfort zone, and this is where it reveals yourself. Sometimes the best of you get out, sometimes the worst, but the worst is good to know. You know, if you start to be a coward or running away from something, look at it, face it. Shit, I wasn't as strong as I thought I was. I actually ran away over there, and that hurts. But you have to see those moments as well. So and this is revealed only if you put yourself in those situations. In your comfort zone, you'll be safe. You'll be safe from the best and the worst. But I recommend you want to be exposed to that. And yeah, with or without parkour, if you find another tool, that's fine. But to have a healthy life, you need to be exposed to those stressful situations.
Yeah, and engaging with those situations and meeting challenge and not overcoming it is still useful because at least you learn that you couldn't overcome that. You learned that that's a limit for me at the moment. Maybe it won't be in the future, but for me that's a limit. And that even that experience doesn't really matter whether you complete the challenge or not. This is something we tell people a lot in training. You know, if you're going to engage with the challenge, whether you complete it or not, whether you do the 1,000 reps or whatever, it doesn't really matter. What matters is you try, you give it everything. And if you can't complete the 1,000, that's useful information. That's just feedback. And you should use that feedback to learn more about yourself and decide then, do I want to go on and complete this challenge? Do I want to get stronger to be able to do it? Or am I happy that my limit is 800 rather than 1,000, so it just gives you information. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to try a challenge and then not complete it. That trying a challenge as hard as possible is success in a way.
And that's why, I said honesty is being honest with yourself is an important one, because if you cheated, if you gave your hand, if you gave it all, or you had a little bit, in the back and you hold back, so it's important to be honest with that.
Masa, shout out to Masa in Japan. Masa says, Masa asks for both of us. He says, parkour can be very intense, hard, deep, and not easy to understand for everyone. And maybe it's not for everyone, but I believe parkour is for everyone. So ultimately, who is parkour for, and what kind of people do you recommend jump into the practice?
Well, as I said, we talked about it earlier. If you're not willing to grow and embrace a challenge with the understanding of the benefits you get from it, it's going to be difficult, because parkour is going to throw you challenges and difficulties all the time. So if you don't like this idea, tough. But then parkour, the way I see it, the way I practice it, I would go back to one Williams Belle's quote, who said, anyone can do parkour, but parkour is not for everyone. So if you want to, and if you have this growth mindset, you can. We'll find the right challenge for you. There's always the right level for you, the right exercise, the right drill, the right intensity, whatever. As long as you're willing to embrace that idea of growth and challenge and difficulty. Now, if you're not, then maybe parkour is not for you. That's with my vision of parkour being a whole, physical, mental, spiritual, even, sometimes. And that's a whole thing that embodies everything. But there's also people who just want to exercise. And I would still recommend you do parkour in an exercising way, rather than, doing one of those machines you can see on TV and listening to music and with a fancy toy. I think that's rubbish. So I would still recommend you do parkour, even if it's just physical.
That is a good answer, and I'm kind of annoyed now because that was probably going to be my answer. So you stole my answer. So I should have answered first.
Shit, sorry. Oh, yeah. No, sorry, Masa. The question was for both of us.
No, I agree with you generally, man.
And, come on, you've been stealing my ideas for the past 25 years. Go, carry on.
You know what
just one more. You can.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, I think parkour is potentially anyone can do it. But But I think it's more a case of, I think the differentiator is whether you want to do it. Yeah. So whether you're called to do it when you encounter it, same as anything. If something calls to you, it doesn't matter who you are, what shape you're in, what age you are.
Yeah.
If that thing calls to you, you know, do it. And I think if it doesn't call to you, same as when you're training for jumps, right? Same as when you're out looking for difficult jumps. If the jump sort of has some sort of you see it and you think about it and you think maybe I could do it, then maybe that's for you, you know. And if there is no connection between you and the movement or you and the challenge, and no emotional connection, no desire, then why do it? I think it's down to anyone. Parkour could be for anyone, but it's mainly down to, are they called to do it when they encounter it? Do they feel that connection?
Yeah, and as you said, regardless of your level, you know, I've seen how many classes I've seen. Probably you're the same. Beginners class, you have first timer who come. One is rhythm shape, athletic, you know, blah blah blah, superstar, and the other one is not. And at the end of the session, you can see the one who was, you know, and who looked like number two to begin with, with a big smile on his face. He learned so much. He's going to come back next one. And the super good guy, athletic, and all that stuff. He just it was a nightmare for him. He wasn't happy. He hated the session because maybe he confronted him with his ego and pride, and he failed and he didn't like it. And I put him in really difficult situation and pushed him mentally, and he didn't like it. So the mindset is very important. It's key, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's one of the really cool things about parkour training. In that is I've always seen it as kind of like a mirror that, you know, when you start training parkour, it's just like a mirror that you look into every day that tells you, it just shows you the truth of who you are. Like, you're sick, you're feeling courageous today, you're feeling fearful today. You know, you're emotionally up for it today, you're emotionally not up today. Whatever, it just shows you this is who you are today. Ruthless, hard, you know, no frills feedback. And I think some people find that very tough. Some people don't like that immediate feedback, and they will then back away from it. But some people, you know, respond to that and they go, I want to know who I am every day. And they then, and you're right, it doesn't matter what level of physicality they have or experience, it's a mindset thing. So that probably, I suppose, to answer Massa's question, we both agree, I guess, that it's more to do with the mindset of the person. There's no specific type of person that parkour could appeal to. It's more, what's that individual's mindset like when they encounter it?
It just reminds me, I have a question. I put it there. We'll see if we have time to go through it now or later.
All right. Yeah, cool. We can throw in as many questions. We've still got a bit of time. So
carry on.
I want to ask you a question from Zatalini out in Malaysia. Shout out to Zatalini. Zatalini asked you, Steph, you spoke about the concept of being strong, not showing fear or vulnerability back in the early days when you were training with David. Has that changed over the years? We know it has. But what's the mindset you prioritize most now in your training and as a coach?
So my training now?
Yeah. And as a coach, what's the mindset you prioritize now?
Well, personally speaking, as I said, you know, I've said that many times, I don't need to prove myself that much in parkour. First of all, because I've done it and done it again. And also I tested myself, not that recently, it was about almost 2 years ago now, a year and a half. I did that handstand challenge in Dubai where I was doing a handstand for 30 days, every day at heights with a drop behind. So it has to have a drop behind. And every day I did that. And so I know if I put myself in that zone, I can do it again. I'm not like 80 years old done. I can still do some stuff. So, but I've done so many times. So this part is gone really. And if you come back to the initial question, what's the drive? It's always, you know, for me to grow and be better and live a better life. It has to serve that purpose. And parkour, for me, I was just training this morning with Johan this morning.
No way.
And I find joy in little things, man. Little things, little tricky, sneaky blind jumps or sideways landing. And as long as it challenges you, I just don't need as much. I did, we did like 2 hours training, and we had a dip in the sea afterwards. Made my day. I'm happy with that because I have a lot of other things to do and to take care of today. So again, what's good for you, and does it serve the big picture? Does it serve the purpose you're really committed to? If that's the case, you're doing the right thing. If not, if you're spending 10 hours doing parkour when you should be taking care of a newborn baby and your relationship with your wife, which is in decline, then you're fucking up spending 10 hours doing parkour. That's not helping you. But it helped me at the time. It served a purpose, and I had I was fortunate enough to have the time and the chance to live at my parents' place and spend 10 hours a day training parkour like a maniac. And I learned a lot from that. But now I have a different life. The goal is the same. How do I live a better life? But parkour is not helping as much as it used to, if I'm completely honest. Yeah, that's just the way it is.
Interesting. And is Johan, your younger brother Johan Vigroux, is he still better than you?
On some occasion he is the fucker. The fat fuck is actually not bad, man. Yeah, it's funny, man. It's interesting, man, because he's good mentally, and if you tease him a little bit, or if you set a challenge, if you set the mind to the task, he's gonna do it. I like it, regardless of his shape. He's funny like that. So yeah, no, it's always cool, man, to train.
Yeah, no, Yo is training with Johan is he's one of those guys that he can turn it on. He can turn it on and do something amazing. And you're trying to do something for ages, and then he comes over and does it. You're like, oh, okay.
and that's what I like training with Yo. That's what I like training with Yo, because when we train with him, he was leading. So one time I lead, and the next time he leads. So he was leading this morning. And obviously he's not going to do physical stuff because he sucks at it. So he's going to always try to do mental stuff. So, for example, we go to a running precision jump this morning. Say, look, if we go there and we do it straight away, we stick the landing, running precision, we just do one. If not, we do 5 each leg. Obviously we missed and we did 5 each leg. But you're always going to approach the exercise this way with a mental challenge. And I like it a lot.
And that's core. That's one of those little details, right? That's core to the original principles of parkour, the original concepts. Maybe you wouldn't throw it into the philosophy, but it is a part of the philosophy, I suppose. Yeah. That idea of it's not just going out and doing jumps. You add something to it. You say we're going to try that jump, and if we don't get it the first time, so we're applying pressure to ourselves immediately. If we don't get it in one jump, we're going to have to do it 100 times or 5 times in each leg, or whatever. Or you give yourself one shot at it. And if you don't get it that one time, you can't. I remember doing that in Brazil. That time, I think he was there, and I think Blaine was there. We were walking along the beach of Rio and finding jumps, and everyone had one chance to do it and only 10 seconds to prepare for it. And if you didn't do it, you had to move on to the next jump.
Yeah.
And I think we involved money in it somehow. I think it was like if you had to just pay like 5 highs to someone who, if you didn't do it, you had to pay money or something. But that is part of the philosophy, right? That kind of adds something to the physicality, because it means there's a psychological element to all the training.
You're here now, and you want to do it, and you add this little extra will that is. And David, always told me, like, okay, we do a jump, and he was like, oh, why do you always do it on the 3rd attempt? Why can't you do it the 1st attempt? You're the same Stephane like you were 5 minutes ago. What? Physically the same. Your jump didn't increase or didn't decrease. You're the same. And so he was always trying to get the best of us or the best of him on the 1st attempt, because there's no reason why you shouldn't. I mean, there's a lot of reasons you could explain scientifically, your brain's already or whatever, blah, blah. But there's also a way that you can do the best on one shot right away, straight from your bed, which is difficult mentally to do. It requires a lot of energy and be really collected. So yeah, we love this stuff. So this morning was a bit like that.
That's cool. It's powerful.
But you see, this stuff don't change. Actually, when I practice parkour, especially when I train with Yo, I feel like it's exactly the same thing like 25 years ago. We do the exact same stuff, and it's fun. We still have a lot of fun, man. It's just I don't do parkour 10 hours a day now.
Yeah, no, I know.
Different goals. It's the same fun.
We're going to have to get Johan onto the dialogue at some stage and get him to verify all this stuff and tell the truth about you back in the day. He's next up. He's actually not next, but he will be soon. Travis in the States. Travis, shout out to Travis. He says, at this current point in time, what is the best part of sharing the practice? What's the most enjoyable part for you of sharing the practice?
To see people benefiting from it. You know, it's for a long time, parkour has been a bit of a weird practice, misunderstood, misportrayed. As you know, for us to educate people about the benefits of parkour and with the authorities to work with them, it's a long process. Just to, you know, put up Parkour UK, you know, and all that stuff. So yeah, to see now people, for example, the trust of the parents who bring their kids to our gym now, it's really, I'm really grateful for that, and how much it benefits them. And you can see on the kids and you can see on their parents, oh, my boy was shy, he was introverted, he wasn't happy at school, and now he found confidence with parkour. It's just amazing, you know. And I don't take any credit for that, really. It just happened to parkour is, as I said, it's a tool, available tool. My job is to put this tool available for people. And it's really nice when it happens to see people benefiting from it. So yeah, I guess the positive impact it has on people, I think, is the most valuable thing I can get out of it. And I'm very grateful for the trust. I'm very grateful for the trust now. People, because there was always been a fight. Oh, you're crazy. Oh, this is shit. Oh, this is ridiculous. You're gonna hurt yourself. And now I've been dealing, especially in Dubai, with very well educated people, wealthy and all, and they see the value in that. And people who try to teach and educate their kids differently because they have wealth and they try to find different ways. I was teaching for 3.5 years as a kid, and I've seen growing up one-on-one for 3.5 years. And his parents was always homeschooling him with different activities, very, very smart people. And he had parkour with me twice a week for 3.5 years. And I was part of his curriculum. And for them, it was very, very important. So I'm very grateful also for those opportunities and people who see the worth of parkour. And you have more and more of those people now who are scientists or whoever who bring that extra, you know, knowledge and see the worth of parkour and how it can benefit, you know, people. I think it's really cool.
Oh, the circle is turned, and now you're the mentor for that young guy. You're the mentor now. So you know, in those 3 years, that probably has a huge impact on him. Yeah.
His mother now they moved to a different place, and she keeps messaging me every now and then, and she keeps, you know, thanking me for the benefit and how he shaped Zia's character in life, and it's really cool to be a part of it. You know, just playing a small part.
Richard asked a question, which is a good question to tie into this at this point. It's a purely hypothetical question, but if you had the opportunity to start over again, what would you include in a parkour film or a parkour documentary to tell the story of parkour and introduce the real philosophy to a wider audience? What would you change about how parkour was introduced originally, if you would change anything?
I wouldn't change anything. I'm not the kind of guy who would change anything. I don't believe in the regret, you know, concept and all that stuff. So things happen for a reason. If it happened this way, it's because we allowed it to happen this way, and because also the audience was ready just to accept it this way. So it happens because it was just the way it was meant to happen. So I wouldn't change a thing. Again, what I do, and again, the real philosophy, it's a big thing. So the real philosophy, I don't believe in any real philosophy. I believe in my vision of parkour, the way I learned it, the way I practice it, and the benefits I got from it. So that helped me to shape and define, you know, more clearly the concepts of parkour and what makes parkour for me. But I'm not claiming I have the truth or this is it, you know. So I wouldn't change, and for that reason, I wouldn't change anything. Because you might be right, you might be better, or it might work better your way. Who am I to tell you this is the way? You know, who am I? That's why I gave up all this kind of conflict with the new generation. I'm just detached from that very much, because who am I to tell you what I do? Just because it was 20 years before you, it's better. No, I guess what's important is, are you happy? That's what I said in the monkey's back. You know, I don't know if you remember, if you watch it again at the end. she asked me, what would you say? I said, are you happy? And it's the same thing. Are you happy? Whatever you do, does it make you happy? If it does, you're spot on. That's it. Don't move. Stay there.
And still one of the, like, for anyone that hasn't seen the documentary Steph's referring to is The Monkey's Back, which is one of the first parkour documentaries. It was made by Julie Angel, and it focuses on Steph. And it was actually the filming of that documentary where you and I met. But that was
right.
like 2004, something like that. And it's probably still, I think it's still probably one of the best documentaries to explain the philosophy of parkour. I think it's still probably the best one. And it was like the first one. So
just my English was worse than it is today.
Yeah, and you had more hair.
Yeah, true.
And you
I jumped better too.
Yeah, you were skinnier as well. So yeah, but that is like that documentary. If you haven't seen it, people definitely go on to YouTube and check that out. The Monkey's Back. It's an awesome one. So
yeah, to get back to the question, I wouldn't change it because again, you know, there is room for everybody, and there's no real philosophy. There's what I trained and what I believed in, what worked for me, and that's what I'm sharing, hoping it works with others.
We have a question from Miles, who asks, if parkour were taught in schools throughout the world, what do you think that would mean for future generations of society, both physically and mentally? What could the world look like?
To a very elevated consciousness of people, I would hope that it would just bring I hope it would make a better society, just because it would make better human, more responsible, more aware, more conscious, because you grow, and also parkour makes you reflect on you and your actions a lot. So all those positive things would only, I guess, make better people, and on a bigger scale, a better world, you know. Yeah, you know, I'm a big believer that humankind is evolving from what we know, because we might not know it all. There are probably some stuff that happened before we don't know, but we are a very young species, and we're evolving, and hopefully towards the right direction. And I believe parkour is a tool that helps to do that, you know, and that's why it happens at this time on the time scale and history of humankind. That we have a new tool now. It's called parkour. It's engaging with you know, I don't know how many millions of people in the world now, and I think it's part of the evolution and the growth of humankind.
Cool.
Might sound ambitious, but
aim big, man. Aim big. There's nothing wrong with aiming big.
I think it's a part of it. It's not it. It's a part of it, and there's a reason why it happened now and not 100 years ago.
And following on from that, Leon, who I'm sure you remember, the mighty Rock.
Awesome.
He asks, how do you feel about the huge progression of parkour over the last 5 years in terms of people doing stuff that we would never have imagined back in the day? Where do you think it will be in 5 years' time?
Oh man, okay. First of all, it's crazy.
Physically, yeah.
Yeah, first of all, it's crazy. Again, you can dig further and then think, okay, what's the motivation behind, and blah blah blah. But physically speaking, it's crazy. And it was fast progression within, you know, I don't know, 5 years or so. So it's physically very impressive, man. Those guys, they're going for it. I'm also surprised. There's one thing, and we talked about this morning with Johan, like, for example, we just took this example of Dom Tomaso, who is in Sydney, I think, and he does a front flip over water and then lands on a small pillar. And then he bailed, I don't know, 5-6 times before he nailed it. And with Johan, it was like, back then we wouldn't dare bailing that kind of stuff. We would make it, or we won't, or we wouldn't. But we wouldn't be like trying those kind of stuff for 5-6 times, risking to bang his head. You know, even just once, that would be one too many for us. So I'm not sure. So I'm very impressed by the level of performance, but I'm so concerned maybe by what does it imply for you to get to that level, and how much risk do you take, and how many times you bail, and on the larger scale, how many will seriously damage themselves, or how many would die, you know? That's a concern. Yeah, but it's very impressive.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I think that is the interesting question there. Is physically the progression has been huge, obviously because of the coactive flow element going on the internet, the spread of the community and the growth in numbers has pushed the evolution physically of the discipline. But yeah, that question is an interesting one. Is like motivate someone to do that and take those risks that many times. How many people are taking those risks and not making it and quitting?
Yeah.
And you see the ones that make it, but you don't see the ones that don't make it, sort of thing. So, and is that the same motivation as to what motivated the original practitioner? So is it the same thing, or is it now a different, even though physically it may look the same, is it actually a different discipline because there's a very different motivation? And that's quite an interesting question to get into as well. We could, I'm sure, talk about that for hours as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a very interesting question. I know that we were more careful. We didn't like to bail. Bailing it happened because, of course, when you challenge yourself so much, there's going to be a fuck up. But really, it wasn't, we didn't take that easily or lightly to bail or to miss. It was very, very important, even on simple stuff, to do things properly with full intention all the time and to do it well. I'm amazed, like how many times you try, how many times you bail, and then they're nasty bails, like nasty fails.
Yeah, painful to watch.
But I would say, again, I'm not in his shoes. I don't know the guy, and then on what kind of journey he is in past, and it might make a lot of sense to him now. So I would just make sure that he understands that, like a guy like Dom, for example, we take him as an example, like he makes sure that people around him, the youth around him who sees him as a role model, that he's aware that it might not be for everybody. That could be dangerous.
Yeah, that's an important responsibility probably to have. Yeah. Well, we've got so many questions to go to, but we're running out of time, man. So I'm going to ask you, what's up next for you? What's up next for Stephane Vigroux? Do you want to talk about or let people know that you're getting into?
That's a very interesting time of my life now. I have no clue. But every time, forever, I've always known I want to be in the UK, for example. I was in Thailand, and I received a phone call from Chow, and then and then we talked. Okay, let's go to the UK and do PK. Then bam. Then I go to Thailand. Then I go to Dubai, and then now I'm in France. It's been a year. I was working on a mission. The mission disappeared, and now I have a question mark in front of my life. I have no clue. It's the first time. It's scary and exciting at the same time. So I have no idea. I know I'm hungry. I'm alive, and I'll keep going, and I'll keep doing the stuff I love, and I'll keep try to bring the best of myself to the world and to my family and friends. But I have no clue what I'm going to do. So maybe it's a good opportunity to get opportunities, and new directions. Maybe I'm completely open. You could find me next week walking in a restaurant, for example, and I just found a talent to make incredible pizzas, for example. I have no clue, man. I'm super open, and as we just said, it's in tough situations that you reveal yourself. I feel like something's gonna come up. I don't know what, but I can't. I'm going through a tough phase now, and I'm sure somehow it's gonna lead to something I didn't expect.
And I think it's the summary of everything you've done in a way. It's kind of like, it doesn't matter what situation you're in now, right? Like when you have that mindset of you will adapt to every situation, you will enjoy where you are, who you are, it doesn't really matter what happens in the world around you because you can't control those things so much. It doesn't really matter. You'll always be yourself. You'll always find a way to remain happy, positive, and to keep learning about yourself. So you kind of get to the stage, I think, where you're not worried by these phases because it doesn't matter. I mean, it's going to come and go, right? Everything comes and goes.
Yeah, no, for sure, 100%. Yeah. I've just seen someone who just asked if I stop teaching. No, I don't stop teaching. It's just I'm not teaching at the moment because I have other priorities. But no, it's not like I decided teaching is not for me anymore. I like sharing, and I like, as we spoke about earlier, I like the positive impact Parkour has on people. It's priceless.
I'm gonna throw one more question. I'm gonna allow one more question because Dev from India has been throwing this question at me from multiple angles. So I want to make sure it gets answered.
We might have to do that a part two when you're ready with my brother.
Yeah. Well, we could do a three. We can have all three and have both of you, and then that'll be just chaos. So Dev wants to know, like, and it's a good question, right? Community building in terms of like the legacy of parkour and the responsibility of people that have been there, like to pass on to the next generation. How do you spread and what's a good way to spread and develop parkour in a city where people don't know anything about parkour? And you've got experience because you have to live to Thailand, Dubai. You know, we've been all over the world teaching it and introducing it to places where it didn't really exist very much. How do you do that? What's a good way to do that?
It's interesting because I've never thought about it. Actually, I've never thought about, you know, structuring an approach on how to build a community. Maybe it would be a good exercise to do to understand, you know, what's the actual steps leading towards building a good community. It's mostly from an instinct.
Instinctive.
Instinctive, you know, manner. I guess the desire was to share and to provide quality services. That was key, especially as I get older and older. Like my last adventure in Dubai, I was really really hard on the quality of the coaching, the quality on the classes, to make sure it has an impact on the person. And I want to hear that from the people and all the parents of the kids, for example, and quality. So yeah, making a positive impact on people with your practice or your tool, which is parkour. And there's a lot of areas in the company you might say I could be a bit lacking of discipline in maybe business or marketing. Mostly marketing, that's my thing. Communicating, but when you come to my class, you're gonna have quality content in there. That I vouch for this.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think you can have, you know, at the end of the day, what matters is the quality of what you do and the integrity and the sincerity you do it with.
Yeah.
If that is good, the world will find out about it. If you're persistent and you keep going, people will come, and word of mouth will spread things, and it will grow.
Yeah.
So if you're sincere and you're persistent and you're determined, I mean, that's how the classes, I think, really took off in the UK, in London, was that we were teaching, you know, back in the day when there was no such thing as an organized parkour class in the world. And we started those, but they were raw, but they were good quality training sessions. They knew if they came to that class, they were going to have their asses kicked. They were going to learn cool stuff. They were going to have fun. And then there would be the same ass kicking every week, completely different type of drills every week, but the same ass kicking. And the speed with which that grew, and the amount, you know, I remember the first class was like 30 people and the second class was like 50 people. And then it was like 70, and then it was like 80 people. And we were thinking, you know, how do we make it so hard that people don't come? Because we needed fewer people to come because we didn't have room. So and we didn't know anything about marketing. I'm not even sure we had a decent website, and there was no social media then or anything like that. So I think it's the quality of what you do. I agree. I think if you do that right and you're sincere about it, right people will hear about you, and they will come, and they will.
Right people. Yeah. And if you have a team, make sure you're surrounded by good people who care about parkour, and again, having the right intention, and things will unfold naturally. It takes maybe more time, but it's solid. I'm sure of that now. Yeah.
Lee asks, how old are you guys? As in, what are his chances starting parkour at 47? I know a lot of people are going to look at Steph and think he's older than me, but he's actually younger than me. He's just turned 40, I think. So happy birthday, Steph. But a lot of people might think he's in his 50s right now.
How many people agree to that?
You can't do the poll. I'm the host. You can't do the poll. So Steph's 40, I'm 44. So 47 is not too old now. We have people in our classes to answer questions.
And for people who don't know, it's Dan's birthday today. So yeah, by the way, happy birthday.
That old chestnut again. Dear, oh dear, yeah. So we're definitely going to get you on again. I'm sure, Steph, at some stage. But before that, we're going to have your brother just to go into the real nitty gritty.
I see some happy birthday, Dan. That's fucking awesome.
It is not my birthday.
Oh, come on.
What's your final message to the audience, Steph, and to the wider parkour community? Have you got a message you want to give to everyone?
I honestly wish all of you guys to live the best life and happiest life you can. That's it.
Simple, effective. Yeah. I like it. Direct.
Yes, at the end of the day, that's what we want, you know. Like, who wants to suffer? Who wants to? And we're all suffering in some way. So who wants the end of it? Yeah. Who wants to be better? Yeah. So yeah, I wish you all the best. Do the right thing. I hope you find the courage to face those difficulties, because you know life is tough. Life is tough. Right now is tough. You know, financially, socially, for many reasons. You know, with the situation recently, the stuff that happened in the US just yesterday. Suffering is all around. So find the courage to face all this with dignity, integrity, and have a happy life. It sounds cheesy, but this is what matters really, because you can laugh about it all you want, but we're here in this body right now, and everybody wants to have a good one. So have a good one.
Cool. That's a strong one to end on, man. I'm sure everyone will join me in saying thank you very much to Stephane Vigroux for joining us, for giving so much of your time. It's really cool, man.
No, thanks to you. Thanks for having me. It's been a while. Yeah, as I say, my English was rusty, but it feels good to communicate. Again, I hope it will have some sort of impact. If it's just one person who took something good and, you know, apply it to his life or whatever, I'm happy with that. So thanks to you for organizing it. You want me again next time I'm here.
I think we'll have to do one with you and Johan Vigroux. For anyone that doesn't know, Johan is Stephane's younger, better, and nicer brother. So it'll actually be probably a better talk.
Yeah, that you can find in Jump London. He was the guy who did Jump London.
He was the guy doing all the good action in Jump London.
And Jerome,
yeah, so we'll do that. We'll get both of you on. That'll be fun. And to everyone listening, thank you very much for joining us. We'll do it again. We're going to have some more very cool guests lined up for the Parkour Dialogues. So make sure to subscribe to the PKGen newsletter, and then you'll get the information ahead of time. And please think about joining us and firing some questions in, because we love the good questions that you guys have been sending in. We'll make sure this recording goes live, stays online for a while. So if you miss part of it, you can tune back in and look at Steph's shaved head again. We will make sure that happens on Facebook and gets emailed to you as well. So thank you very much to everyone for joining us, but mostly thanks to Stephane Vigroux for his time. Merci beaucoup.
Happy birthday.
Guess the That's
ciao, man. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Speak soon.
Ciao.